We are now live, I believe. Celi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Next week is the last week of school for my daughter, and then my boys are going to be in summer camp after that. So we're like end of another school year successfully, which is a lot easier than last year. So I'm just glad to make it to another finish line.
Amazing. You're doing it. You're doing it, Terry. I don't know how you do
Yeah,
it, but you're doing it.
I never said I was doing it well, so we're just kind of pushing through. But I'm looking forward to chatting with you because I don't think we've done an event like this before. We've talked quite often, but I don't think we've done this before. So it's going to be a
No,
lot of
you're
fun.
right. You're right. And I just want to say, I love how you, whenever I talk to you, you're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that much. I'm not taking it easy. I'm just doing, and then I see like Terry, 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 Terry. And I'm like, yeah, if that's Terry not doing that much, then I want to be Terry.
Yeah, well, I have Megan, who's also on the call as an assistant, an executive assistant who helps with a lot of stuff. So that's why it looks like I'm doing so much. I'm up and chilling. So yeah, but
Amazing.
but
Megan, you're
welcome.
killing it. You're doing amazing.
She is. But welcome everybody. Let me know if you can see us and hear us. Just let me know actually where you're dialing in from. That'd be cool. I'm here in Brooklyn. And Celi, where are you now? Because I feel like you moved somewhere like
I
Long Island.
did. I used to be cool and be in Brooklyn like you.
Yeah.
But now I moved way out to the North Fork of Long Island and I live in a very small town called East Marion, right by
Okay.
Orient Point. So
Cool, cool.
see if anybody knows where that is.
Well, I'm sure it's a wonderful area. Either way.
Beautiful.
Uh,
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's not Brooklyn, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I could use a Brooklyn break every once in a while, so it's there's pros and cons, as you know. So yeah, I'm excited to chat with you today because often as a entrepreneur or a business owner, it's tempting to look at various opportunities to grow through could be mentorship, it could be through some online course or some kind of savvy consultant, but then you never really know like trust this person, is this what I need? Does this make sense for me? And I think it's dangerous to invest in something when you're not clear on two things. First of all, what's your desired outcome? And the other is, well, where are you right now in your business, right? What needs to get fixed? Because otherwise, you're tinkering with things that don't need to be tinkered with, and you might potentially be ignoring things that need to be addressed. So I'm glad to have this conversation. And as a consultant, I've talked to so many people who have said, "Hey, I kind of want to work with you, but I work with this other person. I gave them like $30,000 and I got nothing out of it." And I remember hearing this exact same statement before from someone, and I'm like, well, I charged like half of that. So I don't know, I don't know how that happened, where this person ripped you off, and now I'm going through the ringer to get, to give you some real results, and didn't even charge nearly that much. But before we officially start things off here, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So my name is Terry Rice. I am a business development consultant, and that normally involves helping solopreneurs, mostly people who are in a professional service business, grow their brand and revenue. Also, a staff writer, Entrepreneur Magazine, which is a lot of fun. And I have two podcasts: one through Entrepreneur Magazine, and another one through General Assembly. So a lot of content creation. Also, four kids. Oddly enough, none of them are home right now. Normally, at least one of them's homesick or whatever. But yeah, I'm free, so that's good to know. But on Celia, on your end, do you mind introducing yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. My name is Celia, and that's why most people call me Celi, like call your cell phone. I am a growth strategist and a fractional COO sometimes for some. I help entrepreneurs and small business owners really begin to implement key business fundamentals into their business and simple systems so that they break through their revenue plateaus. That's the short story.
That was well versed. And right now, Andrea is saying she can't hear anything. Is anyone else having trouble hearing us? I want to make sure.
Do I need to
Seems like the
change
first.
something? Because I
I
can
don't
hear
know.
you.
Yeah. Does anyone else? Can anyone else hear? Sounds like someone might have been able to before. But we'll check on that to make sure that we're in a good spot. So yeah, I mean, you have a very clear understanding of who you're helping and the outcomes that come from that, and that just shows the benefit of being prepared, right, to answer these questions. Because often you might have like this raw talent, this raw skill, but if you can't communicate it in a way that's very clear, who you are and what you do, how you help people, you'll get lost. So just a quick heads up for everyone: the way she introduced herself, get on that, right, because it works. But let's go ahead and just think about this initially, right? So you're a business owner, you're a solopreneur, you're a startup, and you need some kind of help. You're feeling this, that you need some kind of guidance on how to take the next steps. I mean, what are the benefits from your perspective in regards to seeking outside help?
Um, well, I'm going to back up a little bit and I'm just going to say I'm so glad we're talking about this subject because, like the story that you just mentioned, if someone came to you and said, I just spent this much money, that's why I brought this subject up to you, is because I have so many clients that come to me with a little bit of that same objection of, I've spent so much money on coaches. Why should I work with you? So it got me thinking about this, right? And this, I hope we can make this a dialogue, because this is just an interesting subject. Why do we ever go to anybody for advice? Here's how I like to think of it. Okay. I'm 41. I have a very, very diverse and strange background, right? But in my brain, within my brain, lives only my answers, my lived experience, my knowledge, the things I've studied, and the portions of all the things I've studied, the portions that I've been able to live out in the world. So I already know my answer to a problem, right? Like my brain already knows what most likely I'm going to come up with. So why ever go to somebody else for consulting coaching? I think number one is perspective. I think that a lot of times, especially as entrepreneurs, many times we are our own bottleneck. We a lot of times, like I give people tactics and tools and strategy and Excel sheets and I build dashboard. I do all the things. And a lot of times we are our own bottleneck. So number one reason is just to reframe a different perspective. Hearing something a different way can be the key that unlocks something for you and blows your world wide open. That's number one.
Yeah, let me hop in there. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure there's more as per your bullet points there, but
Yeah.
one thing I heard recently on this podcast with Dr. Michael Gervais and Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall Goldsmith made the point, which he's made several times in his career, is what got you here won't get you there.
I love that one.
And I
Yeah.
think that issue is often with business owners or entrepreneurs, whoever it may be. They're like, look what I built by myself. I started from nothing and now I have this. Why do I need someone else to help me grow this? But again, if you think to yourself again, what got you here won't get you there. That's when you realize there's this deficit that needs to be filled. And that's the challenge I have sometimes when I'm coaching someone or consulting them, whatever you want to, however you want to frame it, and they feel like they know everything. And I'm like, you do. You know everything, like you just said, but you don't know
Mhm.
everything that I know. And if you can't have this beginner's mind in this moment right now, we're in trouble because now there's friction and it's hard to make progress when there's this friction present. So I just want to kind of double click on that. Have you had that experience before where like it's like you're begging someone to like let them help you, but they're just like they're almost like feeling like they already know anything and you're somewhat wasting their time, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely had to fire a client once because of that, right? Because really the people that I work with, you're amazing. I always tell my clients, I'm like, you're already a badass because you're an entrepreneur. And that takes guts. So you're already amazing. You've already done amazing work. You're doing great. And I'm just really skilled in finding what the gaps are and finding what the bottlenecks are and solving for them. And because I'm kind of an engineer and operations minded, I'm going to build out what you need. Right. But I've definitely had one experience where I did have to let a client go because a colleague of mine, I always try to give credit where credit is due, but a colleague of mine named Abby said to me once that her criteria to work with her is you have to be willing to be wrong. And I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's so good, right? Because even me as a coach and consultant, I go to people willing to be wrong. I'm like, teach me all the ways, let me learn, let me start over, let me have beginner's mind. If you're not willing to be wrong or willing to try something new or try something on for size, to your point, you are going to continue to get where you are right now. And so I typically work with people who found themselves in kind of a revenue plateau or their business is the revenue is up and down and they
Mhm.
can't seem to either get past the plateau or get out of that up and down cycle. And I'm like, cool, great. You're doing amazing. And now we're going to find the thing that's going to unlock and take you to the next level. But you have to be willing to go, I don't know everything.
Yeah, my default is to prove why I'm right, and I have to actively say like, wait, maybe I'm wrong. And my buddy Jason Pfeiffer, his dominant question is, what am I missing? What am I missing? Right?
Mm.
And then if you have that kind of mindset, which is opposite of mine, which is I already got it, you'll be much more successful in seeking help. And I really do have to fight through it. Like I'm not joking, but you mentioned a few things, right? So you said, the first thing is, you have to be, willing to, accept this help. But I stopped you as you're kind of bullet pointing other things that go into the need to get help. Like, what's the benefit of getting help?
Oh, yeah. So the first one was just perspective, right? New perspective on an old problem. And the second is actual skills and tools. There's going to be different people out there that have developed skills and tools that you haven't. A great example of this, I always tell my clients when they're hiring, when they're growing their team, I always say, you're going to be tempted to hire somebody just like you, somebody that you vibe with, that you're like, oh yeah, me too. I do that too on the weekends. Oh yeah. It's so tempting to surround yourself with people just like you. But when you're building out your team and your company, you want it to be filled with diverse people and diverse skills. Same thing with a coach or a consultant, right? If you're like amazing at social media and marketing, you're not going to go hire hopefully you're not going to hire a social media and marketing coach or course or whatever, because you're amazing at that. You're going to go look for somebody with different skills and to fill in some of those gaps. So those are kind of my two, like why you'd want to hire a coach or a consultant in the first place is you're realizing that you need a perspective shift, because what got you here is not going to get you to your goal, number one. And number two, there are probably people out there that balance you out, right, with skills that you don't necessarily have. And that's typically true, like internally and organizationally, right? Like you wouldn't want your COO to have the same skills as the CEO. They're very different roles, right? So it's the same thing for a consultant or a coach. You hope that they bring in a totally different toolkit to the table.
Yeah, I love that. And Allison's chiming in saying you're getting a new perspective on an old issue, which is beneficial. And she's also saying badassness is entrepreneurship. Yeah, I hear you there. Andrea, glad to hear that you can hear now. And Anthony, thanks for chiming with the help there. But I just want to say, Marl, good to see you here. And it looks like we have a few other people as well. Brandon, good to see you too. And I don't want to sidetrack too much, but we're doing a quick poll here. Can you just let me know if you're dialing in on your computer versus your mobile phone? We just want to make sure we're optimizing the experience. But if you can answer that question, that would be amazing. And then we'll keep rolling right along here. So, okay, so we realize that, hey, we probably need some help and we're willing to do it. But how do we understand what our deficits are if we have blind spots to them? So how can you even get an idea of like what's going well, what's not going well? Like from a measurable perspective, how can you think about your goals? And then from there, find someone to help you achieve them.
Okay, that's a really big question. And that's like literally what I do is try to figure out actually what's not working. So we're going to try to find like some simple workarounds around this one. I think number one, hold all the horses, right? Number one is, what is your goal? Number one, be very clear about what is your goal. Is it a particular revenue goal? Is it I'm working this much to achieve this and I want to work this much? Is it I have 4 children at home and have to find a way to provide for my family while also, like you've mentioned in the past, being a present father? And what does that look like? And how do I build that? So what is your goal? Because I think one of the things is I observe that when we're not clear about what our goal is, that's when we can get shiny object syndrome. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm hearing a bit of overlap between goals and vision. So I just want to kind of double click on that. From my perspective, a vision is, what does the best version of your life look like, right? What does your day to day look like? What circles are you in? What do people say about you? What do you do on the weekends for fun? Where do you live? Whereas a goal is more or less like an accomplishment. Like I make $200,000 a year, or we have this many employees, or we're active in this many markets, and there were very clear goalposts you can make towards hitting these goals, as per the name, and they can be both short and long term. Whereas a vision is more sustainable; it's usually a bit further out, but you actually know what it feels like, and as a result of that, you can reverse engineer the steps needed to hit this to live in this vision, and those are essentially goals. So are we aligned in thinking that we need both a vision and goals, because otherwise like it might be a little confusing?
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you said that. I definitely always start with your vision of what is your vision for yourself, like not just the revenue goal, but what's your vision for yourself? What does this business do for you in your life? What does it do for the community? Absolutely. I like that you said the goals can lead up to the vision over the long term. That's beautiful, very solid. But in this particular case, I'm going to get more granular and talk about goals, right? Because sometimes I'm going to use revenue as an easy example, right? Because we all think that we have a particular revenue goal. And so when you get clear on what that revenue goal is, then you start to look at, to answer your question of how do I figure out what I actually need and what I need to be looking at. If we're talking about a revenue goal, right, then we get to look at, well, what are all the things that I'm doing that actually create the goal?
Mm.
Okay. So, for example, um, I have 3 offers, or I have 3 products, let's say, and I can quickly do the math and see how they can lead me to, let's say, a 200K goal. Awesome. Then where do you think your focus probably needs to be?
Is that a question that I have to answer?
Mm-hmm.
I would say 80/20 rule, right? So what's the 20% that gets you 80% of that revenue?
Oh, I love this. You're like, I got it. 80/20. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Like, so if I'm really clear, okay, my product suite actually is built to get me to my goal, I probably just need to make sure that I have a plan in place to 80/20, use my time wisely to make sure I sell the amount that I need to sell in order to hit my goal. Okay. So this is where the tricky part comes in, because what's going to happen is you have this kind of clear linear thinking, and then life's going to happen, right? Everybody on every social media channel is going to be telling you all the things that you should be doing and that you have to do, and all the courses you should be taking, and all the coaches you should be hiring to do all these things. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yep.
Right? So this is why this is a very, very simple example, but this is why it's important to first know the goal. Because if we're not really clear on what that actual goal is, because for some people it may be not so concrete like a number. It may be, I want to write a book. Okay. So if you want to write a book, then what are the steps that help you either create thought leadership or get you in a relationship with a publisher? Or do you want to what are the steps that lead you to that? And a lot of the noise that you're taking in and thinking that you have to do is probably not serving that goal. So that's why I say understand what your goal is first.
Let's double click on that too, because let's pretend my goal is, well, one thing that I'm doing now is I'm offering LinkedIn training to organizations, right? I'll train your whole team so they can create content on behalf of your organization. That's my goal. But someone could easily say, "Oh, here's this system I have to help you land more speaking gigs. Wouldn't that be fun? Then you'll get in front of your target audience and you can try to sell your services." So sure, maybe that's one way of doing it, but it's not the only way. But if I chase this shiny object by saying, "Oh, get on stages," then I'm maybe ignoring some other maybe easier ways to go ahead and get these clients. Maybe it's just writing really good content consistently, as opposed to taking this course. So
100%.
I think it's those goals are great, but then there's different channels or vehicles you can use to achieve them.
Yes.
And now we're 80/20. What's the easiest way to do it, right? Maybe it's not becoming a professional speaker. Maybe it's just like, you know, having good organic content, or even like
Yeah.
cold email or whatever. So I say this because oftentimes I'm guilty of this, right? I'm at my desk and I'm working on something and I'll stop and I'm like, this is not the best thing I should be doing with my time. Like I'll feel irked. I'm like, this is annoying. This is a waste of my time. This is not a good look. And it's because I'm not aligned with that, again, that 20% that will help me hit this goal. But if you don't have that awareness because you don't even have the goal, then you're just like, oh, I guess this makes sense. I'm busy, which means I
Absolutely.
must be productive and I'm just gonna keep on doing it for another, 6 hours or so.
Yeah, I love that. This is not a good look for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So yeah, so what you did was speak specifics into kind of the example I was giving. So absolutely. Um, 200K goal, there's a lot of avenues to get there. Right. And the 80/20 principle, if we're going to talk about it in that way, is which one is the simplest? Which one is the easiest to get me there? Because right now, because what's happening is there's trends and we see trends, and everyone's saying, go be a speaker and get on other people's stages. That's a trend right now that you see coming up. So you're like, okay, I have this revenue goal, go get on other people's stages. But to your point, there's probably I can name about 9 other strategies that you can do to get you to your goal faster and that are easier than that, because you're a speaker. And that's how I met you. I think I saw you speak on something I don't even remember because it
It
was years
works.
ago. Right. But how long did it take you to get on the stages you wanted to get to?
Yeah, no, it took a while. And I think that's the thing. Like, there's no, and Tabitha, I see your question. I do want to get to it. There's no right way for everyone. It has to be the right way for you. Because if you hate the process you're taking to achieve the goal, you either will quit or you might just hate your whole business in general. You're like, oh, I have to do all this just to like make a buck. So whenever I hear people saying, oh, this way's dumb, this way's dumb, this way's dumb, this is the way, I'm like, bro, like that way, maybe you don't like it, but someone does. And it's wrong
Yeah.
to say it's dumb because someone might prefer it, right? So I think there's a need for self-awareness too before we even think about the channels we're going to use to hit our goals. Otherwise, again, this coach is going to say, here's this way to do it. It's worked for all these people and everything else is dumb except for this. And you're going to fall for it. So there's a need for that self-awareness. And Tabitha, I'm going to grab your question right now. This is going to be for you, Celi. Do you ever use the SMART goals framework?
Hi, Tabby. I'm going to be really honest with you. Not since business school. But that doesn't mean I think maybe that's probably because it's now intuitive,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I don't think about it that way. But I think probably what I do is the SMART framework. But I don't think about it consciously, if that answers your question, Miss Tabs.
I would assume it does. And I would say this frameworks are there so you're not just grasping at straws, right? And just
Mm,
making it up as you go along. But after you get the point of it, like, you can kind of just go, especially when you're X years into your career. But again, that's the thing. Like, even like if a coach or a course is saying you do it exactly this way, you can kind of use that as a rough guide. But you want to make it your own. And if you're so rigid that you have to follow the same framework, they don't always work in the wild. They're working in some kind of like educational setting, right? In academia. But in the wild, it's like, no, look, we can't measure this, the M and SMART. We can't measure it, but we'll feel the impact, X months down the line. Doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. It just means like we gotta skip the M for right now. Right? Is it
yeah.
attainable? I don't know. It's my first time freaking doing it. I just got like a dream to launch this business. So yeah, I think that's where those frameworks can be the enemy of progress because you're waiting for like this perfect situation, which may never come along.
Yeah. Yeah. But back to the scenario that we're giving, it is kind of built in, right? We're talking about a revenue goal and people telling you all the things that you should do. And it might turn out, it might mean, Tabby, for example, it may mean when it really comes down to it, you have to sell 10 pieces and have 2 clients a month. Cool. That's the breakdown to get you to your goal. That's a SMART goal, right? It's really simple. Whew, love the simplicity. It's measurable, right? It's actionable because what you're going to do now is you're not going to go focus on speaking on other people's stages. You're not going to go do all this other stuff. You're actually just going to go implement one simple strategy to sell 10 pieces and get 2 clients, right? So it is a SMART goal without us having to have taken the time to make sure that it fits into a framework. That's how I would think about that.
I love it. All right, I'll let you continue. I'll stop with all my extra questions.
What? You totally keep stopping me. That's the fun. That's the fun. Where were we? I don't even know where we were.
We were talking about goals. We were talking about 80-20 and having the clarity on what goal makes sense for you. And then from there, rolling forward.
Yeah. So in the context of what we were just talking about, I met this coach that sounds fascinating. Okay, let me take a minute. Let me get clear on what my goal is. And does this particular coach, consultant, course directly speak to the goal I'm trying to hit? Right? So this is why start with your own goal. What is the thing that what's your objective? What is it that you're really trying to do? And now you can put those two together side by side and say, oh gosh, I mean, that Instagram ad was so compelling. I clicked, I swiped, I did all the things. I got the freebie. She's so good at sales. Like I'm in it. And let me just take a breath and take a step back and go, wait a minute. What's my goal here? Right. 200K months. But this person's going to teach me how to build a content strategy of 30 videos in a day. Is that really the thing that's going to hit my 200K, year? Okay. So you're giving yourself a mental exercise of, hold on, shiny object syndrome. I see you. You're sparkly. You're awesome. I'm impressed. But is this the thing that's going to help me move towards my goal? Does that make sense?
It does. And I want to, first of all, acknowledge Zoe saying, I try to go with whatever framework works for the specific client. So I love that, no cookie cutter approaches. And I want to ask a question from the audience. Yes or no, have you ever bought an online course from someone you didn't really know that well and just never ended up taking it? So again, that shiny object where someone dangled that thing, it's like, right now it's only $29 and you bought it, but you didn't take it or you didn't really complete it. Has that happened to you before? Because I can say I'm guilty of that. I bought a lot over Black Friday last year, which are still on the shelf. That to take. But I think that leads me to my next question is like, how do you determine what kind of help to get between a coach, a consultant, an online course? Like, how would you say we can explore these different options to see what makes most sense for us?
I think in all of the scenarios, well, here's an easy differentiator, right? A course is typically, you have to be self-motivated. So already a course is, do I have the bandwidth? Am I actually going to take the time to sit and take in information and then apply it? Because the information is great and knowledge is power, but it's not going to actually move the needle if we're not applying it. So in the terms of a course, do you have the bandwidth to do it? I'm definitely guilty of buying a lot of courses that I think are probably phenomenal, and I never even had a chance to open them. Okay, so
what's the most you spent on a course and not started? I'll be honest. I dropped $2,000 on one.
You're gonna go there. Wow, you're gonna go there. I think a course that I've never actually used, 500 was my max.
Oh, I beat you. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing. But Brandon's saying he's done the same thing. So is Anthony. So yeah, we're guilty. But I love the point you're making about, with a course, you have to be very self-disciplined, right? And I've proven in a few cases, obviously I wasn't. I did take this one online course by this guy, Justin Welsh, about how to create LinkedIn content. And it was freaking amazing, right? I think he did a good job of packaging it in a way that you can get through it in the weekend and feel like you accomplished something.
That's nice.
But I also had more of a vested interest in doing it because my goal was to create better content on LinkedIn because I knew the impact from it. So going back to what you're saying before.
Going back to point number one, exactly.
Yeah,
why did you do it? Because it was aligned with your goal for yourself.
Yeah. I should have talked to you before about the $2,000 course. Well, I'll tell you what. That course was a vote for the person that I wanted to be,
Yeah.
but it was not ready to be. And I
Yeah.
think that's the problem because I was talking to one of my friends, Brittany Barnhart. She worked with this one person who hired her as a coach, more or less. And Brittany's like, "Look, I only work with people who are like feel this way and this way and this way." The person's like, "Yeah, sure, that's me." But then when she worked with them, found out that was not the case. So sometimes when you buy a course or even work with a coach, you're doing it to vote for the person that you want to be, but you're not in a spot right now where you can be that person. So you feel like investing in this person, having that sunk cost will help. But I think you have to do some inner work first, and then it makes more sense to go ahead and do that as opposed to chasing that shiny object or that idealized version of yourself. Otherwise, you're just $2,000 poor and you're still the same person you were before.
Yeah. And I think you said this earlier, that's where self-awareness comes in.
Yeah, I dig
Right.
that. So let's go deeper.
Someone says guilty in the chat.
Yeah, we're talking about spending money on courses we never took. So let's go deeper. Then, how do you? Okay, I get the course thing to an extent. So, how do you decide to work with a coach or a consultant? And I want to go even deeper. This is gonna be tough. How much do you determine you want to spend on this? Or how can you determine how much you want to spend on this? I'll actually make a complete sense.
I need
Like,
a I need a throat lozenges for this question.
yeah, go for it. And this is $1 million question, hopefully not, but like, it's an investment, right? And there's been times when people have reached out to me saying, "Oh, I have this mastermind group, and it's only $100,000." I'm like, where'd the only come from? Like, is that a typo? But I mean, if I was going to make another million from it, cool. That's not a bad fit. So, sight unseen, how do you determine how much you're willing to invest in this resource, whether it be a coach, a course? Like, how's that work?
So I think you just, you started to hint at the answer to this, but what I would look at is a simple framework, since we're talking about frameworks, is how long is the engagement, right? How much does that engagement cost? How long does it take me with my current business model to make that back?
Hmm.
So in an ideal world, whoever that person is up leveling you in a way that you'll make it back even faster because you've up leveled your game, you've changed your business model, what have you, you've got more clients, whatever the promise is. But what I'd like to think about when I purchase things even today, because I do work with people, I do work with coaches, I do purchase things, but I think about, I know how much I make right now. I know what I'm capable of right now. I know where I'm at. How long does it take Celi today and present to make that money back? And is it shorter than the period of the course? So number one, do I make the money back while I'm still in that course or that mastermind or that program, right? So if the mastermind is 3 months, am I making back that money in the 3 months? That's number one.
Yeah.
Does that make
Let's
sense?
stop there for a minute because I used to have a group coaching program, and I think it was $3,000 for 3 months. And I'm like, if you get one client from what I'm teaching you,
Right.
which you will, you're good. It's like it's a good investment. So that's a good way to think about it. And I'm not saying if you have a scarcity mindset, but if you're just kind of frugal and you're like, look, man, like I can't project that far down the line when I'm going to get this money back. I need the money now. That's a really good way to think about it that I hadn't considered before. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. That's what I do, what I think of for myself, right? Cool. $10,000. How long does it take me? How many clients is that for me? Or how long does it take me to make $10,000 back? Got it. Does it make sense? Cool. That's number one. Number two is I believe in always having core capital in your business. So rule of thumb, you should have 2 months of core capital in your business in terms of cash in the bank. What I mean by core capital is that you can cover all of the expenses that it costs to run your business. That's what I mean by core capital. So knowing that I need to have 2 months of core capital in my business at all times at a minimum, will investing in this consultant coach program make that reserve go down? That's my other measure.
Let's stop there because that's important, right? But on my end, I'm a solopreneur, right? So my core capital to run my business, it's pretty low. I don't have a high overhead. but I do have 4 kids. So like
That's part of your core capital, right? In a
is
sense,
it?
like,
I guess so. Yeah, the way you're saying it, but like that's a good way of thinking about it. Like, will this make me lose my reserves, right? Where I want to at least be making this much money per month in order to be a good spot. Not am I tapping into my savings? That's a whole different conversation. But like,
right.
will this like lower my take home to the point where now I am, at the point where I have to go into my savings? So that's a good way of considering it. As well. So yeah, this is helpful. I feel like I'm a student in this whole conversation. I'm just like,
Yay, the tables have flipped.
yeah, I'm just reading my little questions over here. I feel like
So,
I'm getting free consulting too. That's why I like doing this show.
this
So
is awesome.
keep going.
Terry was my first coach ever when I decided to become a consultant years ago. So this is very fun.
Oh, I know it was your first coach. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you were. Yeah.
Was I your last? Were you like done with it after that, or?
No, it was amazing. It was amazing. It like opened my mind of like, oh, I can do all these things as a consultant. And here's the mindset piece to that money part. Why do I not want you to kind of go into your reserves, even to work with me? Because when you show up stressed about money on the coaching calls, that also means you're going to start showing up to your sales calls and to your audience stressed and thirsty. Let's call it thirsty. Nobody wants to buy from a thirsty person, right? Yeah. And when you're in a stress state about money, you're also less open to new information. You're less receptive. You have a little bit of maybe a vibe towards your coach rather than being like, this person's got my back and is teaching me something new or giving me skills. You're in a stress state. So that's why I think it's also important to like make sure that you're not totally depleting your bank to take on a coach or a consultant or course, because you actually want to be in an open, receptive state where you can take all the tools, take the learnings, show up in your world in your fullest, right? And exponentially grow.
Your perspective on that is different from some people, and I can appreciate it because some people might say like, if you're clear on what you want to do and you're confident in who you're going to hire, you should be okay going into debt because you'll get it back later, right? I've heard that same argument, and there's merits to it, but it's the uncertainty. What are you going to get from it? And on my end, I took a course in 2007 on digital marketing at NYU, and it was $900. But at that time, I had about $1,100 to my name because I was unemployed, right? So that was a big bet, but I've made millions, like literally since then, from that $900 investment. So back then that was hard to see, right? But it did pay off, like literally. But I think it's that's where we kind of come to the point I want to get to next, which is how do you vet people or even opportunities? Could be a course to make sure you're not about to get ripped off.
Yeah, I love that you said that, and we could go deeper into that. I do believe in betting on yourself, by the way, but I do think that, so how do you vet someone? When you're working with someone and you're trusting, someone said in the comments, I can't remember who said it, but that the coach and client relationship, Zoe said this about the coach and client relationship is so important. Like, I want you to feel safe to work with me because I'm most likely, the strategies and tactics and things I'm going to have you do and see in your business, I'm most likely going to make you uncomfortable. So I don't want you to show up on the call insecure about money also, because there needs to be some level of like trust and comfort there. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'll kind of add into that too. The reason why I want people to feel like a hell yes is because I don't want to have to feel like I'm auditioning every time I talk to you. Right? I don't want you to feel like, oh, I better hit it this time or else, they're going to be pissed off or feel like, whatever. It's like, look, let's evolve together, but if I feel like I'm always like on the hook for immediate results, like right now, I just ain't doing it because I'm tired. Like I have 4 kids and I got other stuff to do. Right. So if I don't have that trust in you, that's where it becomes an issue. So I'm not saying that your approach to saying, make sure you have the money is wrong. I'm just saying on my end, it's like, I can't help you in solve for your like your lack or your scarcity mindset that you're projecting right now. Otherwise, it's like it's too much energy trying to manage that part and not enough going towards your business. So that's the way I feel about it. But that's
kind
of a stoic approach.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. So absolutely. We got another guilty. Anthony is saying guilty, I think.
Yeah. And then Andrea's chiming in here saying, hey, I'm with you, Sally. There are a ton of people that take courses and put themselves in debt and don't move forward. Yeah. And that's what I don't want to happen because, and I know we're kind of keep on staying on this topic. I've taught digital marketing courses at NYU as well as General Assembly for years, like probably like 6, 7 years, right? There are some people that are investing like $5,000 to vote for the person they want to be, but sometimes they don't do anything with it whatsoever. Like I'll look at their LinkedIn, it has not updated to what they were before, and I'm like, damn, that sucks a little bit, right? Because that's a lot of money. So, and I think that's why I'm even more careful about who I work with because I don't want that to happen either. And I'm glad to hear that our engagement went well and you're happy with it, whatever. But if that's it too, there's a guilt that's involved. If I take someone's money and I think I'm doing a good job, but for some reason it doesn't land. Like you don't take off, or just inverse land and take off. But you see what I'm saying? Like you don't get something from it. That's my issue. I never want someone to look back and be like, man, I'm sorry I ever messed with that guy. Like I wish that didn't happen. So that's another reason why I'm guarded about who I'll work with because I don't want to underperform and have that guilt.
100%. 100%. I mean, we're human too, right? And I'm with you. I really invest a lot of time and energy and mind space to the success of my clients. So I want to make sure that I'm working with someone that is also in the right headspace to grow.
Yeah. And I love Tabby's comment here. She says, as a rule of thumb, I've heard, would you invite this person to dinner? And Tabby, what I often say is like, would I hang out with this person on purpose? So it's pretty much the same thing, right? If it's a chore to get on the phone and talk to Celi, it's like, gosh, maybe we shouldn't have done this. And going back to what you said earlier, it shouldn't be because we're so like-minded. It's just because I can enjoy the conversation even if we are different people, right? But if it feels like a chore, then it's like you can't show up as the best version of yourself because you're dragging your feet before you get on the call. You're looking at your watch when you're on it. And then afterwards, the next person you talk to, your energy is lower because you're so exhausted from talking to this person that you would not invite to dinner and or hang out with on purpose. So I know we're getting in the weeds a little bit about these partnerships to an extent, but I think it is important to consider.
Yeah, it's so true.
So how do we not get ripped off? Sorry, that's a question I asked you like 10 minutes ago.
How do we get not ripped off? Okay, so this is one that I'm guilty of recently, and which what got me thinking about this. So full transparency, because we're all here and we're open. I recently purchased something that was very expensive, and thinking I was going to get something that I needed, and that I was clear that I needed, and that I didn't know how to do. And I went to, Mind Valley recommends this person highly, and he's a really famous person, and he has a whole team. And so I kind of just trusted all that and didn't really do my homework and didn't research and didn't dig into the stuff. So here's the thing. I paid a lot of money for a strategy session. How do you know you're not going to get ripped off? I'm going to make it super simple, like an operations person, like I am. Make sure the person's going to give you the how, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rule of thumb in marketing, and you know this, Terry, you're an expert at this, but we sell people the what. That's the saying, right? We sell people the what. We sell people what they want to hear, what they feel like they need. There's a strategy to selling. But what you don't give away for free in all of your marketing is the how, because that's actually the service. The service that you deliver is the how. Okay, so make sure when you're about to pay somebody $10,000 for just a strategy roadmap of something, that strategy roadmap actually breaks down the how and isn't a whole slide deck of more great ideas. Because I recently paid a very famous person's team for a deck of great ideas. And then I thought, well, yeah, I mean, I'm a strategist. I could have come up with these ideas myself, right? I came to you with, I was hoping you would tell me how to do it. So that's really the key. What I want you guys to ask yourself when you're in that, if you do get on a call with a coach or a consultant, or you're reading through what are the results that a course gets people, is does it actually break down the how? Okay. Like, does it give you a step-by-step? Do they show you how to do it? Not, you should start a YouTube channel. Cool. how do I start a YouTube channel? I don't have one, so I obviously don't know how. What are the tactics there? So that's number one, is do they actually bother to give you the how? Does that make sense?
It does, and I'll out myself. One problem I have often on discovery calls is I'll just give away the how. And I'm like, oh, you want to do this? Here's how you can do it. Because I'm so excited to help someone. I'm just vomiting out real tactics. And I remember this one woman I talked to. She was very nice. She was up in Canada. I can't remember what part, but really excited to work with me. And we talked for like, it was supposed to be a 20-minute strategy call or discovery call. We went on for 40 minutes because I was so excited. And at the end, she's like, I think I'm okay now. I think I'm just going to do all that. And I was like, oh, that's why I am horrible at sales and have to do inbound marketing, because otherwise I would never make any money with my talent, because I just give it all away. And I think the how you should, to an extent, give away with your content, because information is free. It's the implementation and customization that someone's getting by working with you. But yeah, I just vomit out how all the time, because
So,
otherwise I don't know how to make content. Like, what am I supposed to do? Just talk about myself the whole time? Like that, no one's
right.
gonna want to listen to that.
Well, I love that you said that, because I love coaching people on sales and sales calls, but I don't personally like doing them. That's my strategy for sales calls, by the way. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to give away my secrets. I do give people the how on a sales call, on a discovery call, or whatever you want to call it. I do give them the how, trusting that if we had a connection and they liked how I explained it, and they liked that I had a solution to the problem, they're going to know there's more where that came from.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig
Right?
that. And I think it's the accountability too. Like, here's how you do
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk about it next week too, to make sure you've actually done it? Because
Mhm.
it's like, it's not just the information, it's the implementation. And
Yeah.
Allison saying, yeah, me too. I've had people like no guidance on implementation, which is challenging. Zoe saying, I always make sure clients understand and feel comfortable with the implementation. So I love that too. And
Yeah.
then as you're all chiming in here, if you want to give us context about what you do, I mean, share. We're all here to learn from each other. So I think that would be great. But the last thing we haven't said about this, or haven't said one thing, is checking testimonials. Do you
Yeah.
actually have testimonials from this person? But going a step further and actually reaching out to these testimonials.
Yep. That
Hey,
was gonna
Megan, I
be my
saw you're on.
other yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that was
love
gonna be
that.
my
Like,
other example.
there was, and I want to hear more about your experience with that. But there was this tool that I used from a company that helps you like with your marketing. I'll just say that, right? So I'm on their website giving this video testimonial about how well it worked for me. And this person reached out and said, "Hey Terry, I see that you're on this website, but I checked the same company on this website called G2, and all the reviews seem to be kind of fake. But you're a real person. Can you give me, your thoughts on this tool?" And I said, "Hey, when I gave that testimonial, it was 2020, and my business was totally different back then. It worked for me. Would I use it again now? I'm not sure, because I'm not the same person and I have different ways of growing my business. So it worked, but I also had a different use case than what you're talking about right now, too. I would go find someone who's used it for the exact same use case and have the same conversation. You're having the right conversation with the wrong person right now, but keep digging, because it's a huge investment. So I feel like that person is now in a better spot, because they can just look at someone's website and say, wow, look at all these reviews that may or not be fake from like Mike Smith. They actually called someone and said, look, dude, can you give me a couple minutes to get this information? So yeah, if it's a coach, a course, a consultant, whatever it is, make sure that you're getting that real feedback from someone, not just a cool case study or like a blurb on their website.
Yeah, I love that, and that's kind of what my other point was gonna be, was I got sucked in by, the entity that recommended this person, by the testimonials, and I didn't bother. Like, why not reach out to some of these real people? If their information is there, why not reach out and say, "Hey, what was it? What was the deliverable?" Because I want to know what the deliverable is for $10,000, and how did you then walk and implement that deliverable, and was it hard to implement? Um, I recently had somebody get on 2 different calls with me, and then she got on another call with me to say, "I really like you and this all sounds really good, but I'm having a hard time believing you that you can deliver this much," 'cause she wanted my VIP day package. I'm having a hard time believing that you can deliver this much in a VIP day and then I can get all of this out of it and that I can implement. Do you have someone that has gone through it very recently and I can talk to? And I was like, absolutely. Here's 2 people. Let me check with them first. I did. One of them hopped on a call with her and told her, legit, this is what it was like. This is what I got out of it. Right. And then that person immediately was like, okay, I'm ready. And I just think anybody that you're going to invest in, especially high ticket coaches or high ticket consultants, I think they should feel comfortable to say, yeah, absolutely. Talk to my most recent person that just had a VIP day and had their 30 days of support and what it was like and what results they've gotten just after 30 days. Right. And so I was glad that this client did that. And I myself got myself into trouble by not doing that. So get over your fear of doing the awkward thing on the sales call and just saying, hey, I still kind of feel like I want to make sure this is right for me. It's quite an investment. Is there somebody that I could actually hop on a call with and see what it was like for them? Why not? What do you have to lose?
Yeah. No, I mean, I love that because I made the same mistake last year with someone else too. It wasn't for coaching; it was like for service delivery, and they were like straight garbage. But if I had asked for even the example of their work, I'd be like, "Oh wow, it's actually garbage." So you're not
Right.
the only one. So so don't feel like you're messing up. Zoe's saying they learned one on a discovery call, give 1 tip, and if they want more, make them come back for it. And Zoe teaches entrepreneurs with disabilities how to start and run their own business, which is amazing. So congrats on that
Amazing.
one. Allison does mindset work based on cognitive behavior techniques. So Allison, I'm already a fan of what you're doing. Pretty big on mindset. And Andrea's into co-packing, a fulfillment packing wire assemble kitting center. So Andrea, I'm actually looking for a co-packer for this meal service that one of my clients is starting. So if you have any information on that, that would be great. But that's the benefit of
Actually,
being
no,
on these.
Andrea's
Go ahead.
great, by the way, and Allison just released a book today. So all these amazing people are in this
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of being on calls like this. I mean, we can kind of go outside of the scope of it, but like right now, I mean, you all have something in common, which is, you're thinking about how can I make my business grow, which means you're all business owners. So you can probably learn something from the questions that people have and maybe the content they're posting too. So, I mean, I don't go to networking events, especially in person anymore, but it's the same thing right now. We all just kind of take time to interact with each other. So we have to see that that's happening. But Celi, I mean, on your end, first of all, how can people learn more about you, even your VIP days? Like, just give us an opportunity to see, like, what it's like to work with you and how we can learn more about that.
Sure. Easy way to interact with me is obviously here, LinkedIn. Just DM me. We can be friends. You can decide if you'd have me over for dinner or not. Or on, I think it's it's written on the screen, but or on Instagram is I am Don Celia. Inside joke because everybody around me always comes to me for advice. So a friend told me a friend started calling me the Don, and that's how that stuck. But you want me to tell you a little bit about what the VIP days look like?
Yeah, tell me, because I'm offering something similar too, and I want to see why yours is better, which I'm sure it is. So go ahead.
Well, fun fact, I actually coached a client who her offer in the world is to teach people how to turn their retainer services into a VIP day. So after I was done coaching her on some growth issues she was having, I actually took her program and learned to turn my retainer coaching into a VIP day. And so my VIP day is for anybody who's stuck, plateaued in revenue or dipping up and down in revenue. It's intense. It's actually 2 days, but I do a deep audit of your business. I give you a score on a framework chart that I've built so you kind of know where you are. To your point that you said at the very beginning of this call, Terry, you have to know where you are first to understand where, how far away you are from your goal, right? So I do a deep audit, and from that audit, we pick the 3 areas that are the lowest scoring of all the pillars of business and create step-by-step tactical strategies about what you need to do in those areas. And then you have 30 days of support with me and my VA building out some of those systems. So that's my VIP day. What I say is for the people who really want just the nuts and bolts of like, I want to get unstuck, give me the strategy, give me the how, give me the step-by-step. And like, I want that. Great. Then the other thing I do is work with retainer clients who are like, I want the nuts and bolts growth strategy. And I also recognize that I am the bottleneck and that I need accountability and I need mindset work and I need leadership work. For those people, we do retainer work, and that's weekly coaching. Same strategy, but we work on like your mind and how are you getting in the way of implementing said strategy. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, and I mean, I think the whole, and not to go on too much of a tangent, is people put a high value on time compression. And so, like,
Mm,
look, I just need to have a strategy. That VIP day is great. I don't need 90 days of you. Look, I'll give you the same amount of money.
yep,
Let's just do it Tuesday. So I think it's
absolutely.
important to realize what your audience is looking for, and you can augment your delivery. But Ryan Quinn, he's saying you can come over for dinner, but you have to bring good beer. So you're in a good spot there. And Ryan's a good guy. I used to work with him in Buffalo a long time ago. Anthony's saying, I'm just a stalker in the planning stages of launching a strategy and analytics consultancy firm focused on SMBs and nonprofits. So that's very specific. I'm glad to hear you're not
Yeah.
just saying like, hey, I'm going to launch a consulting firm. Like, if you're in the planning stages, I think you're further than some people are when they're already executing because you're clear on your target audience. So
That's actually a good
yeah,
point. Yeah.
yeah, keep it up. You're doing well here. But yeah, I do want to be aware of your time. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up. But this has been great for me. And again, it's fun being the student as opposed to the teacher. And whenever I talk to you, I'm always learning new things. That's why our calls always went long because
Always.
you're always like saying some cool stuff, and I'm like, I gotta go, but this is actually interesting too. So, so I remember that.
Always.
Yeah, this was
And you
years
were a
ago.
great coach
Yeah.
because you actually gave the how. You were like, you want to figure out here, use this chart, do this thing. So kudos.